levelling up a white paper finally published, 350 pages, reducing inequality between the North and the South. What are you going to actually do that means that by 2030, the deadline you've set, this country is going to be a more equal society?
Shift power and wealth away from SW1 towards working people in the North Midlands, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. We'll do that by making sure that funding on everything from arts and culture to research and development is spent closer to the people that matter in the North and Midlands. And we will also be held to account with clear missions and clear metrics for delivery.
OK, so you called it levelling up. One of my commentators, Andre Walker, pointed out earlier that the last 2 years with lockdowns and restrictions has actually ended up with, and schools closed, with levelling down. Children in the most disadvantaged areas have got less education. We've seen loads of jobs lost outside of the capital city and the south, and a lot of people feeling an awful lot poorer. So you've got a tougher job to do as a result of government policy, haven't you?
Well, we've got a tougher job to do, certainly because of the pandemic, and it's absolutely right that the effect of the pandemic and the virus were felt more acutely by working people and by people on lower incomes. That's why this Levelling Up white paper and our ambition is so important, because we've got so much to do.
Well, we've heard that you've been in battles with Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, over how much money is involved. How much money did you want to achieve this agenda, and how much money have you actually got?
Well, I've got what we need. In the spending review, we had discussions with Rishi and Simon Clarke about the money that my department would spend, but also the money that other departments would spend. And so we've got, for example, a 4.8 billion levelling up fund, 1.7 billion pounds of which has already been committed, more to be committed shortly. We have money for brownfield regeneration, technical term, but essentially it means cleaning up those parts of cities that have been derelict and neglected, and giving them the sort of makeover that King's Cross and Stratford have had. So we've got what we needed.
Okay, so how much in total? Because it's my and my listeners' money at the end of the day. How much of our money are you going to spend on this in total?
Well, I'm going to spend the rest of that 4.8 billion levelling up fund. So 4.8 minus 1.7 is 3.1.
So we're going to basically reduce inequality between the North and the South. We're not going to see people who live in the poorest parts of the North of the country dying extraordinarily, in some cases 14 years earlier than the richest in the South. We're going to see equal opportunities from school, training, just complete reworking of all of our inner city centres and retaking of derelict land. And we're going to devolve power, and we're going to see all of that. And we're going to do it for £3.1 billion. What a bargain.
Well, that's the money that's there in the specific Levelling Up Fund, but it's also the case that there are, as we know, big budgets for the Department of Health and Social Care, for the Department for Education and other government departments that my colleagues are leading. But the important thing is, of course, money matters, of course, resource matters, but it also matters how it is used. And one of the key things about the Levelling Up white paper is we recognise when it comes to economic growth, to growing the pie in the first place, it's the private sector that does that. Government can help lay the ground, irrigate the fields, but it's the private sector that grows the economy.
OK, let's also talk about energy bills, because we know we've got this cost of living crisis. The national insurance rise in April, we're told, is going to go ahead. Next week, Ofgem, the energy regulator, is expected to announce a major rise in that cap to energy bills. We're going to see £2,000 a year on average for the average household for the energy bills for the year. We're told now that front page of the Times that the energy bill, the energy bills are going to get a rebate. We're going to have effectively a £6 billion loan from government to energy companies for them to cut our bills by £200. So our household bills will be lower, but presumably we're going to have to pay that money to pay to the energy companies in the end. And we're going to be subsidising not just green energy on our bills, but also the fossil fuel industry as well. I mean, is this a level of insanity that people just are not calling out?
No, I think you first of all brilliantly summarised the Times' story, and then provided a very clear and punchy, typical JHB analysis of it. But it's not an area of policy for which I'm responsible. I do know that the Prime Minister and the Chancellor will be saying more about the cost of living shortly. They care about helping the poorest in our society, and that will be their focus afterwards.
OK, my final question to you. We haven't had more restrictions than Plan B over Christmas and New Year. That was the right decision based on the data we have from South Africa and what we've actually seen. That was a good decision. We're told at the weekend, though, that you were one of the ministers most pushing for there to be more restrictions as a result of the modelling. Do you accept now that the modelling that has been used to lock us down and restrict our lives, close businesses, get children out of school for the last 2 years has actually actually all been wrong and we should not be listening to the modellers again?
No, I don't accept that it was all been wrong, but I was
Which
wrong.
bits were right?
Well,
Could you point to a model that's been correct, that even their best case scenario has even come close to matching where we were?
Yes, but you're going to get something unprecedented, I think. You're going to get a politician saying that they got something wrong. I, in Cabinet, was concerned that we may need additional restrictions and argued for them. I was wrong. The Prime Minister and the Chancellor were right. At Cabinet a couple of weeks ago, I said I was wrong and they were right. And you have it here, Julia, a scoop. A revelation of what actually went on in Cabinet. I won't say what anyone else said. I'll tell you what I said, which is, I'm sorry, on this occasion, I made a mistake. Now, lots of people make mistakes when you're dealing with an incredibly complex and fast-moving situation like the COVID pandemic. I think there were lots of other occasions where the government did things absolutely right, and they did things that I thought were right and had argued for. We can go over those, perhaps over a glass of wine, the next time we meet.
Yes, I'll bring a suitcase full of booze down Whitehall. Michael Gove, I appreciate you answering that question, and I appreciate your honesty in admitting that you were wrong on that. I think it's left us all quite shocked, really. Michael Gove, Levelling Up and Housing Secretary. Wish we'd had longer with you, but that's all we have.